No culture over time has ever existed without a belief system in order to sustain its survival. Culture Code is a show that's aimed at exploring trends, languages and behaviors in South African pop culture. It unpacks the unspoken culture specifically within the black community. We'll speak about it a bit more in just a moment, but first, take a look at this.
December is...
It's a month. December,
Have you seen a man whose heart was broken?
It's just savage.
You know, Bumas. You see, African time is a phenomenon that adds hours. And also, what kind of cycle arrives on time, like a wedding?
Okay, so plenty to take from that moment. And joining us there, as you can see on your screen, is the queen of Zulu comedy herself, as well as an actress, Celeste Ntuli. And it's lovely to have you on the program with us, Celeste. Thanks very much indeed for making time on a Saturday when I'm sure you could be getting down somewhere doing great things. But let's speak about what I think is actually the brave move of trying to even unpack black culture or, the culture in black communities. And I say this because, black people are not monolithic. In other words, we're not all the same. In fact, there are often divergent views about what is and isn't culture. So with that in mind, where do you start?
I think some of the things culture has become an umbrella word for everything. But some of it is not really culture. It's norms. It's things that we've inherited and we've taken across throughout the generation. Some of them are stereotypes more than they are culture. So I think Culture Code is such a cool show that makes us, unpack certain things. And at some point, I think people will see throughout the episodes of the show that you're going to get to a point where you're like, maybe we can leave this one behind. It's not really a part of a culture as much as a part of a norm that one was taught, or maybe what you inherited when you were growing up. So yeah, black people's culture is always evolving because we're the coolest people, and we've gotten to the pressure of whatever other oppressions that is out there that has made us make everything look cool. We even make poverty look cool sometimes. It's not good for us, but it's what we do. I think it has a lot to do with coping mechanism, and also it has a lot to do with just naturally being rhythmic people that we are. So every little thing that happens in any other culture or any other race, black people tend to, put a spin on it. We do things differently.
It sounds like there's a bit of serious and sobriety in this particular treatment of what I think is quite a complex issue, quite frankly. Speak to us generally about, I guess, the architecture of this reality show and what you're hoping people who are watching will take away from it.
One thing for sure, I think I would like for people to take away the fact that our culture can be discussed without us feeling bad, whether, we always have this, why do we have to hang our dirty laundry out there? And I know it's such a sensitive topic, but with this show, it's people's views on different topics that we might be engaging in families, with our friends, with our colleagues at work sometimes, things that we go through that are just common amongst us as black people and common amongst us in our culture, like the rich aunties and the funerals, the weddings. All these things happen to other races. Everyone gets married, everyone has a wedding, everyone has a funeral, everyone has a whatever engagements. But all these things, we treat them differently. With us, even wedding alone, within our wedding, there's a wedding for us. And it's and right there, it's like, I think this show is not going to take a mockery of culture, but it's going to highlight and also enlighten. As a comedian, I feel we are so sensitive sometimes to things that we need to hear. And people are always talking about healing and healing and healing, and they'll forget that the part of healing is to hear what you don't want to hear, or maybe what you feel like, maybe we shouldn't discuss this. That's exactly what we should discuss, because it affects all of us in different ways, and we view it differently. There are black people now after the COVID, they're like, actually, you know what, 50 people at the funeral is not a bad thing. Although that's not what our thing, but now we're going to get to that point, and then the question begs, who do you invite? And to even think about inviting people at the funeral, it's such a crazy idea if you're a black person. But COVID has taught us that, and actually it works for the budget.
Which is important, guys, because in many instances we've had situations where families are already dealing with the loss of someone who, for argument's sake, was a breadwinner, and now have to try keep up with this expectation to cater to the masses, as it were. When quite frankly, if you want to give comfort to that family, the best thing to do is probably not to come to that funeral. But anyway, those are probably my own thoughts. You should have had me on the show. But what you did do was invite influencers and media personalities. I wonder how that worked out for you, because, again, it's important, whilst we have these discussions, to say the right things so as not to be seen to be making a mockery of black culture.
Oh, yeah. I think people that are on the panel, the influencers of Film Pela, those are the people who deal with culture on a normal. So the show didn't just pick just about anyone. These are the people that deal with culture on a daily, and in our digital space too. You know, the content creators that do videos on the social platforms, sometimes they touch on such issues. You know, we see things that are trending and they become hashtags coming from those, and they're mostly derived from our culture. So I think having people that deal with culture that are in the culture space was such a cool thing to do, because then the views on this culture code is going to come to people who practice culture daily. When you're an artist, you really talk about life, really. Whatever that you do, painting, digital, social media artists, radio, we are just dealing with what everyone else deals with on a daily. So I don't think the take and the comments and the views are to ridicule, but to highlight and enlighten and to make it light.
Sure.
And sometimes to laugh at it, because believe it or not, I know we have this thing of we don't want to hear about it, but sometimes when you hear about it, that's when you fix it. If it needs to be fixed.
Yeah. I'm interested to know, because of this process and this journey and your involvement, is there anything that you went into this thinking is legitimately part of our culture, and at the end thought, I don't know if we should really...
Oh, no, there are those where I'm like, because I'm a voice of the culture code. So I read the scripts before, they shoot, and then I also comment and respond to what the influencers and the celebrities and the artists on a panel are voicing. So there are those when you're like, I don't think this is even our culture. This is what we just adopted,
right.
And I think that's what I like about the show, because some of the things, although I'm a black person, becomes a culture shock in me, because I'm a black person who grew up in rural areas. I'm very not so familiar with the township culture, if you know what I mean, as much as I'm more familiar with the rural culture. And also sometimes at some level it can have a bit of an there is such a word, intercultural shock. You're like, I'm black, but we don't do it like this in my hometown or in my hood. So it is enlightening, and you do find those things that are maybe daunting or questionable, whether they are part of our culture or we've adopted them. Yes, I do have those moments where I'm like, maybe this is not our culture.
What you've just described there is what some sociologists call cognitive dissonance, but I imagine you guys went that deep. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Okay, what do you call it? I don't want to miss out on that English.
Thanks for your time. Celeste Ntuli is the queen of Zulu comedy, as it were. She's also an actress, speaking to us there about a new reality show called Cultural Code, and it explores, in some respects, some of the trends, languages, and some of the layers around black culture. Thanks very much indeed once again for your time. All right.